What's up? X3 is in the house, and today I need to tell you about my crazy Christmas.
So guys, when Christmas Eve was going on, we had it here at my house and we were celebrating and everything was going good. And when everyone was leaving, I asked my uncle to bring my dog, because he takes care of my dog, and he said, sure, I'll bring it. And the next morning, we were opening presents, and my sister got a Hatchimal, and when the Hatchimal was hatching, my dad got a text message from my uncle, and he said my dog was missing. He said that my dog ran away, and he has been looking for him for over 2 hours. And my uncle has a pretty big backyard, and beyond his backyard is a swamp. Left the back gate open so he could run into the swamp, which he normally does, but he always comes back. I wasn't worried yet. The reason I wasn't worried was because I'm like, oh, well, he'll find him. But then later in the day, we weren't getting any text messages from him. I texted my uncle, and he didn't respond. Like an hour passes by, we start eating breakfast, and I started to get worried because he didn't find him yet. He wasn't texting us. And when we were eating breakfast, I couldn't eat, even though the food was really good. I ate a little, but I was just too worried, and so I told my mom, let's go look after breakfast. And this is Christmas Day, by the way, so when people started to leave, because some people came back, and they were leaving, and so my family, my blood, my grandparents, my dad, my mom, and my sister, we went looking for Rufus. Like 3 hours have passed now, and so then finally once we got there, it was only 13 minutes away, but once we got there, they have been looking for him for 4 hours. My uncle went through the swamp. Me and my dad went through the swamp. My grandma and my sister and my mom shouted his name, and we didn't find him. And this, by far, was the worst Christmas ever. My grandpa was driving around, and he found my uncle and his friend, and he picked them up and drove back to my uncle's house. And they didn't find him, but my uncle found this guy, because my dog, when he barks, it's a deep bark, and you can hear it. And my uncle found that bark, and he asked this one guy, do you hear that bark often? And the guy said no. And the guy pinpointed where that bark was coming from and said about 4 houses down. Now, my uncle went 4 houses down with his friend, and there were 2 golden retrievers and a big sheepdog that was black and white, which made my dog look like a chihuahua. So Matt came back with my grandpa, and he took me to go to that person's house. We knocked on the door, no one was there, and neither was my dog. So we knew that was a bust, that my dog wasn't there. And while all this was happening, one of my uncle's friends put lost dog on 3 websites, Next Door Neighbor, and the 2 others, I don't know, but he put them on web. And when my uncle went up to that person's door. He told me to wait in the car. He left his phone there, and I get a call from one of his friends. And I said, "Hey, hello." And he's like, "Hey, is Matt there?" And I'm like, "Matt will be with you in a minute or so." When Matt, my uncle, got back into the truck, he called the guy back. And the guy said, "Hey, your dog is lost?" And my uncle was like, "How do you know?" And his friend was like, "My mom was on Next Door Neighbor and saw that Rufus was missing." And they just looked like 12 minutes ago that someone said that they found Rufus. And we got our hopes up so high, and we were super excited. The person who found him described him and said that they were leaving for a Christmas trip in an hour. When we got back to my uncle's house, me and him, it was 1 o'clock, which means it's been an hour. We were going on Next Door Neighbor on the internet, and my parents just drove away to go look for him. And I texted them that come back because we think we found him. And so everything went on. We found the address, and we went to the house. And me and my uncle got there, and they were gone. But they didn't give the person who had my dog's address. They gave the person who has her key. Who has her key to get into the house. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think we have him. And he's literally right behind the door. My uncle went up to the guy's house and asked if he could help us get in, because he had the key. So I heard this deep bark. I went up to the window and saw my dog. It was Rufus, all right. And my uncle gets the guy to come out. The guy unlocks the door. And Rufus goes running past my uncle, barks at the guy, and then runs straight towards me and jumps on me, because he knew I wasn't going to yell at him for running away. We found my dog. And this was not the way I expected to see my dog on Christmas. Really, it was a Christmas miracle, because if we never went on the internet, if there was no internet, we would have never found my dog, because he was in someone's house. And we got my dog, so, because my uncle took off his tag took off his collar so he could pet him and scratch him and stuff. And he didn't even think the next morning that was the day he ran away. So now that we've gotten him back, I was the happiest guy alive. I was so happy. I don't know how to put it in words. We finally found my dog after 5 hours, maybe 6. And yeah, we put the collar back on and leashed him up, and we drove away in the car, and I sat next to him. And he laid on my lap. And now I say that it was the best Christmas ever. And I gotta say, man, I love you, Roof. And please don't ever run away again. And that was the story about my crazy Christmas. So guys, I just want to thank you all for watching this video. Hope you like it. And if you do, hit the like button and please subscribe. And hopefully this never happens again.